Ed, good morning.
Morning.
So GDP could be slightly better than expected due to a surprising lift in exports.
We exported more than expected in the December quarter, and specifically chickpeas is what the ABS have called out, because we had tariffs with India and India removed those tariffs. We then sent them a lot more chickpeas than normal. They bought a lot of our chickpeas, surprisingly. So the ABS have talked about it in their correspondence yesterday, and it's lifted our GDP by 0.2%. So we could expect 0.5% growth in the December quarter, potentially 0.7%, and 1.2% growth for the year. Last time around, it was 0.8% growth for the year. So economic growth is starting to get better if the figures come in as expected from the ABS later this morning.
All right, we'll watch that, Ed. Now let's get to the major economic story of the day, which is it's a trade war. The trade war is underway. These have happened in the past, but this is an interesting one. So you've got the US has announced its. There's been a response from Canada. Mexico's is coming. There's been a response from China as well.
There has been, and there's also been an immediate response from the stock markets overnight.
Yeah.
We saw US markets fall pretty sharply. Admittedly, they've actually come back a little bit in the last hour or so. So US markets erased all the gains they'd made under Trump this year. There was a lot of positivity in the US. Now those gains have gone. We've seen really sharp sell-off over in Europe. Some of the markets in Europe are down more than 3% in the past couple of hours of trading. Obviously, the ASX 200, Pete, it opens this morning. It's going to be down about 1.2%, I think, is the expectation. But this is just day one.
Yeah, but are these the initial jitters, and then it sort of gradually works itself out?
Yeah, it's going to take time to see what actually happens here. Obviously, Trump's using this as a bargaining tool, trying to get companies to invest and build manufacturing in America. That's his end goal. If businesses start to do that, then he might relax his tariffs. But other countries like Canada, they're in a tight spot. We saw uranium prices fall sharply yesterday. Canada are one of the biggest producers of uranium in the world. A lot of ASX-listed uranium stocks lost more than 10% in value yesterday. That's just one little example of how these tariffs can affect Australia.
Yeah, no, just further to that point you said there, I just wanted to bring up his Truth Social account, because Donald Trump had said today, if companies move to the United States, there are no tariffs. There are Australian companies in the United States. So how does that feed into our story?
There are. So BlueScope Steel is a great example. They've got a steel mill in Ohio. It's called the North Star Steel Mill. They've basically set that whole business up so they can supply the American market with steel without a tariff. Now, this is obviously something they did back when Trump was president previously as well. There were tariffs placed on steel and aluminium. Obviously, Australia got an exemption that time around. I know our trade officials are currently working to try and get an exemption put in for us this time.
Yeah.
But there are other businesses as well, like Amcor, one of the biggest packaging companies in the world. It's got a lot of manufacturing in America as well. So there's lots of Aussie businesses that have moved over there over the past few decades and are making money.
Does that complicate things this time around, or...?
Oh, probably.
Anyway, we'll see how that goes. We hope we can get a carve out, but we shall see, because then you've got other nations that go, well, hey, they got one. What about us?
That becomes an issue too.
Yeah, I know the UK is working on its own one. It had the sweetener last week with the state visit issued by the King. So we know what is going on there. Anyway, anything helps. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks,
Talk
Pete.
to you soon.